Hello and welcome into the KE Report. Shad and Corey here as your host, and we're getting an update today on Cosa Resources Corp. Cosa is traded on the TSX-V under the ticker COSA and on the OTCQB under the ticker COSAF. And I'm joined today with the president and CEO of Cosa Resources, Keith Bodnarchuk. Keith, great to get you back on the show. It's been about a month and a half since we've had you on. And just before we dive into some of your recent news flow, I want to just have you take a minute and just recap a lot of our prior conversations as the primary focus of the company has really shifted due to the joint venture you have at the Murphy Lake North project and the Darby project, along with your partner Denison Mines. And so these are really where the gravity has shifted for the company, but you have a big portfolio of many other projects that you have some optionality with. So maybe give people a sense of the main focus of COSA, but also the optionality you have on your other portfolio of projects.
Yeah, certainly. First, it's great to be back on here, guys. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Our focus has shifted since we closed that transaction with Denison in January, whereby we are now actively exploring the Murphy Lake North and Darby projects, which we are a 70% owner of. Denison obviously became our largest and most strategic shareholder due to that transaction. We closed that transaction in January. We had a drill on site at Murphy Lake North within a month. We completed a four-hole kind of initial program there, which has really set us up to what we're working towards is a follow-up summer program here to follow up those good initial drill results we had at our Murphy Lake North joint venture. We left the drill on site and we will be doing a larger drill program there this summer. That is our key focus here for this upcoming summer. It's fully funded. We obviously completed financing in February, where we brought in about $6 million Canadian. So our treasury is in good shape as we head into this drill season. And, it's been exciting for us, despite, what's been happening in the market. We did have a good initial drill results at Murphy Lake North, and we are excited to get back there this summer.
All right. Well, Keith will follow up as more news comes out on those projects, but the most recent news has been focused on this Astro Uranium Project. April 9th, the company entered into an option agreement with Global Uranium Corporation. They're already starting some work there. April 30th, you announced an airborne geophysical survey. Give us just a little background, a reminder on this Astro project, its location, and any past work done there, please.
Yeah, certainly. So Astro was a project we acquired really just after we acquired our Ursa project. So it's right beside that. With the recent transaction with Denison, it became a project that we just weren't going to be able to get around to, but we really saw it as a terrific project still. And so we were able to do a deal with Global Uranium, whereby they're going to earn in on the project through a series of stage payments that totals about $9.5 million worth of work, $800,000 in cash, and 2.6 million shares of Global Uranium. We got to work very quickly on that project. Like you said about that news release, we are flying Airborne EM over top of the project. It is, like I said, it really ticks those boxes of what similar to our Ursa project in the sense that it's in an underexplored area of the basin. It's a long trend of some pretty significant discoveries, and it just really hasn't seen an injection of capital throughout its history. And so I think you've seen groups move into these areas of the basin that have been previously unloved, but where there is a lot of that space left to ultimately make a significant discovery. And so we're doing airborne right away here. We will be doing some more programs probably later this year and into early next year. And so, like I said, we're excited to do that transaction. Our capital is focused on these Denison projects that we will be actively drilling, but it is important to keep that pipeline of projects going because, I think I've said this in past interviews where, you do need that pipeline of targets. You take that approach where you drill something, you test your best targets, and if they're not showing what you want, you be ready to move on to a different project. You don't have that flagship project until you ultimately make a discovery. And that's been very successful for us in the past by taking that approach. And so it's good to have that group of Global Uranium coming and earning in on one of our projects like Astro. So like I said, our capital can focus on Murphy Lake North and Darby, drilling those projects.
Well, and Keith, when we first started talking and having you on the show, we were talking about the Ursa project right nearby. And I think what's important for people to look at is you mentioned briefly there that it's on trend with a lot of key projects. I'm thinking of like Cameco's MacArthur River uranium mine, and it's also
Yeah.
close to Canalaska's Pike Zone discovery, which made some waves last year or two. So maybe just speak about the prospectivity of this mineralized belt and why this is still a worthy target of more exploration.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is that string of pearls that everybody talks about, where you have, string of pearls mapping down from McArthur River past Denison's Griffin Phoenix all the way down to Key Lake. And we like to call these uranium corridors. And we got as much ground as we could ahead of the rush in the Athabasca Basin to really put our fingerprints on much of these uranium corridors as we could. And Astro is within these corridors. And so I think what's been good about what we've done at Ursa is that we've really come up with a recipe on how to quickly develop targets and make them drill ready and really be as systematic as we can on drilling the best targets first. And so I think we are taking that same recipe that we've applied at Ursa, where we did have some really good initial drill success. And, we're going to apply that same recipe to Astro project. And, Ursa is still a terrific project. We did spend a significant amount of time on it throughout 2024, but our focus has shifted because we acquired projects from Denison that were right beside the Hurricane deposit, the highest grade uranium deposit in the world, and Darby, which is right beside Cigar Lake, the largest uranium mine in the world. So we got targets that were too good to pass up on, and that's why our focus shifted towards those ones. But, projects like Astro, like Ursa, are still highly prospective. And the good news is with something like Ursa is that with the work we've done in 2024, we've kept in good standing now till about 2030. So it is in good standing. We aren't forced to spend dollars there if we think that we have better targets to drill on Darby or Murphy Lake North.
So with this option agreement, and 80% interest the Global Uranium can earn up to in 5 exploration stages. Look, this first one right here, geophysical survey. What's the pathway even to get drilling or really through those 5 stages?
Yeah, so it's typically what you do in the Athabasca Basin is you will do airborne modern geophysics, which we're doing right now. You'll define some good areas that you want to go in and do some sort of ground surveying, whether it's ANT or potentially more a ground EM. You'll do that to further refine a drill target, and then from then on, you'll be ready to drill. And so that's our goal on this project. We'll be pushing towards that. Like I said, doing airborne, maybe potentially ground surveys, within the next 12 months, and then looking to drill as soon as we can after that. And like I said, we'll be excited because, we could be drilling at an Astro project while we're also, drilling at some of our other projects too. So I think increasing our odds of ultimately making that discovery by partnering up with somebody like Global.
Well, Keith, just along that line of thinking, you have a lot of other projects that you may not have the bandwidth to get to immediately. Are you considering doing more option agreements like this on some of the other projects?
I think we're open to it. It's not necessarily our model to acquire something looking to flip it. When we acquire a project, it's our intention to explore it ourselves. But we are always looking to really upgrade our pipeline of opportunities. And if we feel we've done that, then we would be looking to move off some of our other projects. But we do always want to maintain, control of a pipeline of targets ourselves, though, too. Because like I said, it can happen quickly where you go in and have a drill program and the results aren't showing what you want. We won't get married to that project. We'll move on to another one. You have to do that. You have to be adaptable to the conditions and to the results you get. And so, we will maintain a healthy portfolio ourselves that we're in control of for sure. But if there are projects that we can't get to, like you said, Chad, then yeah, absolutely. We are open to doing a deal on those ones.
Can you give us a portfolio overview? How many projects you have? More of what's possible within that portfolio if you have so many of these assets?
I think it's important to kind of understand the Athabasca Basin, right? It's not uncommon for companies to have a lot of different projects. The land is very valuable there. And so if you are able to, and it's actually quite cost effective to acquire it, it's about 60 cents a hectare, and then you can keep it for 2 years until you ultimately have to do some work on it to keep it in good standing. And so, us having all these different projects, we probably have, say, about 10 key ones, I'd say, whereas ones that are all drill ready are probably about 4 or 5 of those. And, our focus has shifted to the Denison ones with Murphy Lake North and Darby probably being our key ones to do right now. But, it's not uncommon for companies to have quite a few different projects in that Athabasca Basin. Like I said, it's not that costly to acquire them. And so, in the background, we will be drilling obviously Murphy Lake North and Darby, but in the background, we will continue to develop more drill ready targets. Projects that we've done that on to date are, Aurora, Orbit. Obviously, Ursa has drill ready targets that are sitting there. We will be looking to advance our Cosmo and Orion projects with really cost effective geophysics. But, 90% of our budgets are going in the ground on drilling Murphy Lake North and Darby because I think a lot of the projects we had prior to this Denison acquisition really needed a lot of geophysics. They really needed a lot of upgrading to bring it to where it is drill ready. Whereas these projects we acquired from Denison were at the right level of maturity. They're what we call discovery ready. They had a decent amount of historical drilling that can really help paint a picture about what's happening underneath the ground and help generate targets, but not so much drilling that it's really killed off target areas. And so I think that's why these have shifted to becoming our focus. But in the background, we continue to upgrade our other projects and make them so they are drill ready and ready to go so that, if these programs at Darby or Murphy Lake North don't yield the results we want, we do have that pipeline that is ready to go.
Makes sense. It's a good strategy too to keep moving those along and doing the earlier stage targeting work so that you are getting more drill ready targets at those other projects. And like you say, you already got a handful that are drill ready. But let's end it with the look forward as to the key news on tap, Keith, because obviously the focus being both Darby and Murphy Lake North. What can you tell us about the summer drill program? And let's maybe end on the key news you want investors to look out for.
Yeah, certainly. So watch for news on our upcoming program at Murphy Lake North. We're having our JV meeting with Denison coming up here in the next few weeks. And then we will update the market on, number of meters, drill targets, et cetera. And, we're really excited to get back there. I think we did do 4 holes in the winter program, and ultimately that fourth hole did intersect some very significant sandstone alteration, which is a key component in and around these unconformity uranium deposits. So we're excited to go follow that up. So watch for a lot of news flow on that. Watch for news flow on our Astro project, where we're currently doing ZTEM, and we will be updating the market on some of our other portfolio projects that we continue to advance with geophysics. But Murphy Lake North is the focus right now, and where we'll be updating the market on drill results here over the next few months.
Well, we are looking forward to following along with all of the exploration work at all of the projects. And there's a lot of news flow on tap for Cosa Resources coming down the pike. So for those listening in, definitely click on the link below in the show notes. It takes you right over to the Cosa Resources website, straight to their news section, so you can follow along when the market gets updates, even sign up for updates that hit your email inbox. Keith, keep us posted. We'll get you guys back on for an update soon. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.